NFC North. We're starting with the Chicago Bears. Bears finished 5-12 last year. Started 4-2. Very optimistic in year one of Caleb Williams. And then it went south. Their over-under is 8.5. The big offseason addition, of course, is head coach Ben Johnson coming in from the Detroit Lions. So they got the highly coveted Ben Johnson. The whole league, everyone who needed a coach, wanted Ben Johnson to come in. The new young mind as far as offense goes. Ryan Poles recently extended as general manager. They've really turned this roster over since he's come in. What are you expecting from the Chicago Bears this year?
Yeah, I mean, for the second year in a row, I think you have to be really excited about the Chicago Bears heading into a season. The last year simply serves as a cautionary tale for, just remember, as excited as you may be heading into the year, it doesn't always work out that way. But you can't not be excited now. I mean, we said it before. It doesn't mean that Ben Johnson will be a great head coach because nobody really knows that until the rubber meets the road. But for several years now, he has been the prize that everybody's been chasing in terms of the most coveted head coaching candidate. And the Bears are the team that for the first time has been able to tempt him away, which is like a double whammy. Not only do you get the prize, but you also take him away from your division rival. However much that is a rivalry right now, whatever. Detroit no longer has Ben Johnson, and you do. So it's great for Chicago. You also add him to a quarterback. If you believe that Ben Johnson has quarterback turbocharging powers, you added him to a guy who, at the very minimum, needs help, right? Let's put it that way. Caleb Williams did not look like the superstar, all-conquering force that he has been at times in his college career in his first year of the NFL. So at the very minimum, I think he needs a coach that can work the offense, that can put him in a good situation, that can smooth out some of his rough edges, that can try and turn him into the quarterback that he can be. So that part is great. The receiving core, I think, was already in a pretty good spot, even with the departure of Keenan Allen after 1 year. You then add in the draft Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, two incredibly talented players in the first couple of rounds. So that part should be fantastic. And then the other thing, the first thing that Ben Johnson did in concert with Ryan Poles is overhaul that offensive line and say, look, I want to eliminate that as a variable in Caleb Williams' development, right? Maybe this won't be a top 2 or top 3 offensive line like Detroit, but let's try and make it top 10 and eliminate it as a concern. So I don't see how you can look at this and not be excited by the Bears offense.
Yeah, a lot to cover here, but I want to review Caleb Williams' season last year. Remember, it was a few bad games, then some good games, some bad, some good, some bad,
Inconsistent.
some good. Inconsistent, and they were in chunks, 2 or 3 games at a time, whereas analysts, you're always looking for patterns,
right?
And especially in a rookie quarterback, he turned a corner. Oh, he's back again. Oh, he turned a corner. So we didn't get that consistent pattern with Caleb Williams. The other thing that I complained about a lot last year, Shane Waldron was the offensive coordinator. He ended up getting fired. I didn't like the offense. I didn't think there was anything.
Few people did.
Right. There was anything in that offense where it was this is QB friendly. We talk about easy buttons. There weren't enough of those. And I didn't see the structure, the reads, the spacing. I didn't see anything that was favorable to Caleb Williams. On the other hand, how Caleb Williams' style, whether at Oklahoma, USC, or in Chicago last year, how much is he going to read it out, go read to read versus just being a good natural playmaker? And I thought last year all of that was back and forth. I think there were games where Caleb Williams felt robotic, and there were games where it felt like, okay, there it is. 5 big-time throws against the Vikings and an overtime loss, and you felt that natural playmaking that made him the number 1 overall pick. That's the biggest question for me this year is what's that balance, and how does Ben Johnson handle that balance? You described him, the paint-by-numbers quarterback of Jared Goff. Jared Goff ran Ben Johnson's system, which was unbelievable, and had really good playmakers and great offensive line. Jared Goff ran it extremely well. Where's the balance of Caleb Williams just hitting the open man in the system, within the system, versus being a natural playmaker? And from Ben Johnson's perspective, how much do you adjust your offense to Goff doesn't have natural playmaking ability as much, but he's very good at running the offense. Where's that balance, and how do they figure out that dynamic? And again, Williams had that long interceptionless streak. He had 6 interceptions last year, but he had 19 turnover-worthy plays per PFF. So we always talk about this dynamic of don't look at the interception totals, There was fumbles. There was a high sack rate. Still a lot of negative plays in there, even when he wasn't, quote, turning the ball over. A lot of negative plays in there. Not ridiculous as far as turnover-worthy plays, but the sacks, when you add those into it, a lot of negative plays that need to change for Caleb Williams.
I think it felt like a bad combination last year. The Caleb Williams, number 1 overall, with Shane Waldron and that coaching staff, because it was almost like a force multiplier where all the stories that have come out subsequently, and obviously you have to take some of them with a pinch of salt, or at least moderate how extreme they are. But there were so many reports about like a lack of attention to detail in terms of installing the offense, in terms of, putting the offense together, the quotes that you hated about how he wasn't really set up to watch film properly. And the point there is not that Caleb Williams was literally sitting there with a clicker in his hand, having no idea what to do. It was that nobody had sort of instructed him with like, here's how we want you to watch film. Here's the step-by-step process. Here are the takeaways we want you to take from this. Here are the things we want you to process while you're like, nobody had, helped him to watch film to the point where it was useful. So you put that together with a quarterback who's always going to play a little bit outside the lines anyway, and, muddy the waters and, play outside of the structure. So that those two things in concert, like, drag everything in the same direction in a way that isn't helpful. Caleb Williams was getting comps to Aaron Rodgers and Mahomes, two quarterbacks who also like to play outside of structure quite a bit. But this feels like the nightmare scenario where, when Mahomes was being drafted and people were like, well, what happens if he just tries to play outside of structure all the time? That's kind of what happened last year. Like, what happens if you take Mahomes and put him with a coach who's fuzzy on the details, right? As opposed to, we take Mahomes and you put him next to a quarterback guru and an offensive mind who's big on details, who has a plan, who wants to do various things, A, B, C, and then you add on Mahomes' ability to ad lib on top of that. That's great. That's a fantastic combination because they complement each other. This felt like the two strengths were the same and the two weaknesses were the same, and they made everything worse. They amplified each other's problems.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. So I think at the end of the day, I don't know that Ben Johnson has like a system per se. I don't think he's Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan has a system that, continues to grow, but he would take quarterbacks, plop them into his system, and find the guys that executed it well, scheme it up, teach them how to do it, and great results. I don't know that that's necessarily Ben Johnson. He's got all these trick plays, but he takes a lot of shot plays, and I think Ben Johnson is more of an adjust to the quarterback type of play caller. We'll see. We haven't seen him in non-Jared Goff scenarios. But Caleb Williams, the reason why he went number 1 overall, he can throw from the pocket. He can throw on the run. He's athletic. He can scramble. He can do a lot. So I'm interested to see what Ben Johnson, what he taps into, getting design plays, getting him out of the pocket, because I think he's still outstanding throwing the ball on the run. Deep ball was very inconsistent last year for Caleb Williams as far as accuracy and timing and touch. I don't know that that's necessarily his game, but then you add in Ben Johnson as the dial-it-up guy, the number of times that he got their speed receivers behind the defense in Detroit, that might offset some of the deep passing woes, say, that Caleb Williams has. So it's not just one-on-one, give your guy a chance. It's like, all right, this is the deep post that's wide open because of the scheme. So I think there's a lot of potential here for this Bears offense. Rome Odunze in year 2, got to keep an eye on him. And again, what you said at the beginning, a lot of the investment this offseason, shoring up the offensive line. Joe Thuney comes in immediately, one of the best pass-protecting guards in the NFL. That helps. Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. Burden finally getting on the field as of record time today in training camp. So they have a chance to have a good group of pass catchers, the two-headed monster at tight end of Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland, an improved offensive line. Left tackle is the position battle to keep an eye on. Braxton Jones battling to keep his left tackle spot with a couple other guys up front. But I think the other 4 spots are looking pretty good on that offensive line. And so I think the offense, I can't wait to see it, man, to see what Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams can do.
And I'm excited to see, Ben Johnson, a guy who loves trick plays. Luther Burden with that, as a coach, I think could be exciting. Luther Burden whatever you think about his capacity as an all-round route runner and a complete wide receiver, is just an absurdly dynamic ball carrier with the ball in his hands.
Keep an eye on Burden. I think there's another. I mean, I see someone in the chat comparing him to Kadarius Toney. Between Todd McShay's rumblings about some of the off-field or his ability to opt out of games or whatever he was questioning, other people I've talked to around the league, I think there was some teams who were just out on Burden generally, but he's really talented. And so we'll see how that dynamic works on that offense. Defensively, it was almost like the Bears, and when you're in rookie contract world, you can do this. They were just like, we're stocking up on the trenches. That's it. That's where we're going. Sign Grady Jarrett after he got released at defensive tackle. Dayo Odeyingbo comes over from the Colts. I think the Bears, we said for a few years, the Ryan Poles rebuild was lacking on the defensive line. They just didn't get to it yet. I think they've finally gotten to it. Montez Sweat coming off of one of his worst statistical season, but he was playing through an ankle injury for much of the year, and you could see that noticeably. They have a chance to have a pretty good pass rush, probably the best pass rush that they've had in the Ryan Poles era, and they've had a pretty good defense these last couple of years, so they have a chance to be good on this side of the ball as well.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some really good players on defense. Jaylon Johnson, star cornerback. Kyler Gordon, fantastic in the slot. Kevin Byard is still a really good safety. Montez Sweat is a really good pass rusher. Grady Jarrett is an interesting signing. They gave him quite a lot of money, and he's been a very good NFL player for his career. He does, however, look like he's basically hit the end of his career at this point and has stopped becoming that player. So it's an interesting time to give him quite a chunk of money, which felt like a sort of reaction to the relative lack of impact from Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens, the defensive tackles they drafted in the last couple of years. I don't know if he's fixing it, and that could still be a real weakness for them, that interior right up the middle, which stresses the linebackers, TJ Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds. So, I wonder if that's an Achilles heel to this defense. But if Grady Jarrett is able to bounce back and be anything like the player that he has been in the past, then that could be a really nice defensive line.
Yeah, Andrew Billings last year I thought was playing pretty well before he got hurt as far as a big-bodied nose tackle, and I think that affected just the strength in the middle of that defense. Gervon Dexter has played pretty well. He's a better pass rusher than run defender. I just don't think they have a whole lot of hold-the-point type of players besides Billings. So, yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on their run defense. Position battle-wise, cornerback 2 opposite Jaylon Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah.
Slated as the starter. He's been okay.
Remember, their entire season started to unravel when Tyreek Stevenson, the Hail Mary against Washington. They had a game 1. Tyreek Stevenson's taunting the crowd and ends up being the guy that blows the play, gets caught by Washington. Literally, that's like the hinge point in their season where they went from 4-2 or whatever it was at that point to basically losing almost the entire way out.
Yeah, he created a meme, and the Bears season fell with it. I'll just say high level with the Bears. I think the roster continues to get better under Ryan Poles. I don't know if it ends up showing up in the win total. I think they'll win more than 5 from last year. But it's a tough division, man. I mean, at the end of the day, last year at this time, we were like, hey, is the NFC North the best division in football? And in week 6, everybody was 4-2 or better. Right. I was like, yeah, we were right. It
Nailed
was. And then you got to play each other, and it's tough beating the Lions. It's tough beating a good Vikings team and a good Packers team, and things fell apart for the Bears. So it's easy to add that narrative, but they were in a tough situation, rookie quarterback and everything that they had. So I think they'll be better this year. I think Ben Johnson will get them moving in the right direction. The question is, will they be over under this 8.5 number from FanDuel?
Right.
Will it show up in the win column? Because I think they're moving in the right direction, better on both lines of scrimmage. Defense was sneaky good the last year and a half or so, really since trading for Montez Sweat. So a lot of pieces around there, but you're still in maybe the most difficult division in football once again.
So, yeah, I think those two things can be true. And I expect them to be better this year. I think they'll win more games than last year, but I think they might also still go under that total because we expect the Lions still to be one of the best teams in the NFL, and it would take a lot for them to – well, not a lot. It would take quite a few things happening for Chicago to be better than either or both of Minnesota and Green Bay. So they could be way better than last year and still be the 4th best team in the division, which – I mean, if you're the 4th best team in the division, it's quite hard to win 9 games.
My one prediction I want out of you. What do you think we're saying about the Caleb Williams-Ben Johnson combination halfway through the season?
Halfway through the season.
Say halfway and then at the end. Like, are we saying match made in heaven or still figuring it out? Where do you think it starts and where do you think it ends at the end of the year?
Halfway through the year, I think we're going to be pretty excited about what it's doing, the combination of the two. Everything's good. Basically a continuation of the offseason narrative that it's the perfect combination. By the end of the entire season, I think we'll be a little bit more on the fence about it, and it was way better than year one, but we're still short of like he's arrived. It's going to be in the sort of Baker Mayfield bucket of, off the back of half of a good year in Cleveland, and we're like, maybe next year he'll be a superstar. That kind of area.
I think we might be saying one more year of building for the Bears. And I don't think that's unfair given the division. I think you might be asking about the running back situation. Do they have, they didn't really attack running back outside of a 7th round draft pick. I think we might be looking at, man, just give Ben Johnson his elite runner. The O-line's going to be good. Give it another year with these playmakers, with Odunze, with Burden, with Loveland. I think we're going to be really optimistic about 2026, but for now, I'm going to go under the 8.5 for the Bears. So I'm going to say move it in the right direction. I don't know if it shows up in the win total this year for the Bears.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.